not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Welcome to the Rock this morning. I'm your host, Pastor Steve Blair, and a very special welcome to you. It's been some time, not really some time. I had the last week off, and once again, it wasn't all good news, but I'm here today, and I'm thankful to God for all His blessings. Well, on the Rock, we take the time to just look into the Word of God, look into the Bible from a different perspective, not necessarily a different angle, but bringing different things to light from the Word of God, looking at things that we would never normally delve into, just to give us a chance to see God's leading for His people through the stories, through the actions, through the Word, and no doubt it will change your life. We also explore those common and not so common biblical subjects that we are also curious about or just want to understand more. We cause believers and unbelievers to consider and or reconsider the things they've heard, studied, understood, or read. We force church goers to consider dialoguing on issues very often glossed over, ignored, and misunderstood. On the Rock, we do our best to show Christians how we can advance according to the Word of God. And that's why I just love being on this program. It is your program, and a very special morning to all of you joining us from around the world today. Obviously, I'm looking to see who's going to be the first person to send in a message this morning, and I just want to greet you when you do so. So, a very special welcome to our listeners on Facebook, YouTube, those joining us via the love101.org or the Love 101 FM app, downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. Forced to serve Rachel's father, Laban, for 7 years to win her, Jacob was tricked at the end of that time into marrying her older sister, Leah. He was then allowed to marry Rachel as well in return for 7 more years of labor. That's the, in a nutshell, version of what some call the world's first love triangle of Jacob, Leah, and Rachel. Well, as far as we know, but there must be much more to this story. So stick around and explore it with us when we get into the show in just a bit. But first, a piece of my mind, 3 things to speak about that I can think of this morning. And I start with the fact that I returned this week to see in Sunday's paper that the government is very concerned about the number of traffic accidents and deaths on our roads. I took the time to look at a place like Miami and also Florida and others, and to see that in Miami there were 356 deaths throughout 2023, and we were above that the last couple of years here in Jamaica. And the thing is, while I was in the U.S. these past few weeks, I examined how people were driving 70 and 80 miles an hour on their highways. We have 2 highways, one allowing us about 80 miles an hour, one allowing us about 50 miles an hour, which I tend to think is a bit absurd. However, you can't blame them when you think about the fact that our road situation is just so crazy. Maybe though, we need to take a look at how we read our numbers. Because when I see 195 persons have been killed in 168 fatal crashes since the start of this year up to yesterday, it is we're into the 6th month, going to the 7th month. So once again, if we're not careful, we're heading to 400. Though they say the fatalities have decreased by 7%, I must mention that pedestrians account for 19% of the road users killed since the start of the year. And with our numbers the way we have it, I would really like to see what the numbers are on our highways, on our roadways, separate from the high yield areas, like the roads into the Spanish Town bypass, etc. So we've got to do a study to really examine what's happening with our accident rate and our death rate. But I take the time today to encourage Jamaicans, be safe on the roads. Tell somebody. Stop at the light, tell somebody at the light. Wherever you go, you see somebody speeding, pull up beside them and tell them the life you saved may be your own. 195 persons dead up to yesterday, and we can do much better than this. So let's take the time to work together on Jamaica. So I'm thankful that the government is all for speaking up about it right now, because enough is enough. Um, Last week was Father's Sunday, last week Sunday, and I was not here, and I really wanted to take a time to look at some of what's happening in Jamaica, because because it's time for the fathers to arise in Jamaica. Yes, we've been doing a lot better. Yes, we've seen fathers taking children to school. 50% of Jamaican children are born to unregistered fathers, 85% to unmarried families. And I continue to say the more unmarried families is, the more unstable our country is. There needs to be stability, and stability comes through the development of families, and families influence children in the right way. Um, the facts are that the fathers have not been there the way they need to be, and we take the time today to encourage the fathers to show up. June is Family Month. There's no greater way to move forward for most children than to have a family. Whether you and the mother is not together, they're not together. Take the time to think about how you proceed year after year for this child. Give them a hope, give them a future, and show them love. Mothers don't keep the fathers away from the children, and fathers make the time to show up to carry out your responsibilities, to not just give them money, because fathering is a lot more than giving money. Give that child some love, give that child some attention, give that child some guidance, give that child some care. Highly necessary for you to be not a sperm donor, but a father to that child that has come from your loins. The future of your country, the future of your community depends on you, right? Last thing I'd like to speak about before I go into the break today is that my father-in-law passed away a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago today, actually, 2 weeks ago today. So I don't think I was on the program the last 2 weeks, or at least. But the thing is, I I came back into Jamaica, and I saw a lady on must have been Facebook or YouTube talking about her mother dying at the hospital, and all the effort she went to, and not being able to find her mother's medicine. And it is never my thought to hit on government entities. I normally try to encourage the police more than anything else. But as I saw that mother, I began to cry, because 2 weeks ago today, um, 2 weeks ago yesterday, 2 weeks ago today, at 1 a.m., I got a call from my wife that my father-in-law had been taken to the hospital. I got a call from her a half hour later to say that they said he had a massive heart attack, and I needed to send funds for treatment. And there am I running around in my room searching for my token, getting everything sent by 2 o'clock in the morning. And he was not looked at or treated until Tuesday evening, and he passed after surgery. I wonder how many people go through situations like that. And it is so sad. Whatever we need to do for our public health facilities and for the health of our people needs to take a priority in Jamaica. I am devastated this morning. I have not recovered, because this has been perhaps the 12th family member for me in 2 years. But the closest, in the sense of my father-in-law, I've lost uncles that I've grown up with. Um, how many other people are going through what my wife went through. We went to the hospital yesterday, after we came back, because and I went to receive his favorite slippers and his clothing, and they could not find anything. And for my wife, that was further devastation. I'm not complaining on her behalf. I'm complaining on the behalf of the hundreds of Jamaicans that cannot get a hospital bed, that cannot get hospital treatment, that cannot afford health care. And I'm wondering, where do we go from here? How do we proceed into the future of this country that is trying to become a first world nation with third world habits? Um, for me, a lot of it has to change. Once again, beginning with family, how we build this nation. We want to have more people. We don't care about children born out of wedlock. We don't care about our numbers, but our facilities cannot manage our numbers. Our roads cannot manage our numbers. Our hospitals cannot manage our numbers. Yet we want to see an increase in numbers so that we can make more money and have more business. Somehow, you professionals at the university, doctors, students, your studies need to show us, where do we go from here? How do we proceed as a nation? You need to be able to say to, not just to me, but to our politicians, are we moving too fast? Are we looking at, the lesson I learned in geography, when I did A-level geography, was looking as to whether a nation was overpopulated. And it was not about the space, it was about the resources. And I say today, do we have the proper resources, health-wise, police-wise, facility-wise, to make this country go forward? That's my challenge today. And I ask us to look at it, put it into your Facebook right now. Let me see it on my stream, because I'd like to mention it before I go into the program later. We're going to take a break. This is going to be The Rock today. And I know I might have slowed you down with my beat, but it was a piece of my mind. Are we ready for the future? Jamaica, we'll be right back.
Kevin Downswell Foundation presents Realignment 2024 with Kevin Downswell, Chevelle Franklin, Positive, John Mark Wigan, Prince Saj, and more. Tickets $2,000, VIP $6,000, VVIP $10,000. Fontana, Genus, and St. Jago Pharmacies, Brian's, and Kingston Bookshops. SpurOpen.com/realignment 2024. 876-203-7030. Saturday, July 6, Ronnie Williams Entertainment Center. Sunday, July 7, Mandeville Primary and Junior High Playfield. 5:30 p.m. both days.
Did you know that many of my schoolmates have an unhealthy diet, especially at school? And now 23% of them are overweight and or obese? And so one less sugary drink at my school may mean one friend less, or two or three, at risk of cavities or diabetes. And if we're served less foods high in saturated fats, sugar, and sodium, it may reduce our risk from obesity, heart disease, and high blood pressure. The solution is simple, right? Act now. Let's get unhealthy foods and beverages out of our schools.
A message from the Heart Foundation of Jamaica and partners.
When tape diapers are difficult to change, it's time for Pampers Easy Ups with 360 stretchy waistband. They're easy to put on and take off, keeping their skin dry and protected.
Changes are easy with Easy Ups.
All right, we're going to do a roll call.
The Love Jockey is on duty every Saturday inside Youth Connection. Don't miss the hype. Don't miss the tunes. Don't miss the excitement with your boy, DJ Rebirth. Saturdays at 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. on the family station, Love 101. At 3 p.m., your DJ runs the gospel rhythm. Hot, hot. Tune in at 4 p.m. for a time where we share a word to grow your mind. GYM, grow your mind. Jim, get it? grow your mind. And at 4:30 p.m., we share with you how young people are giving of their time and fulfilling their purpose inside Ministry in Action. We get a taste of poetry and spoken word inside Poetry and Praise. And you get to send us a WhatsApp message and request your favorite gospel song inside Gospel Faves at 5. All this and more every Saturday at 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. with your love jock, your boy, DJ Rebirth. It's all here on the family station, Love 101.
Youth connection. Shuboti and them figured he provide everything on guide people we chat. Shuboti and them figured him alone make we appear when we did chat. Hey, hey.
Get ready for another inspiring show this Testimony Tuesday inside Alive, 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. June 25. Packed with inspirational stories and island-flavored music. 1:45, we bring you the brain testing Menticize Listener Speak Edition. Stick around for Prayer Blast at 2 o'clock as we bring in the prayer bells of heaven. 2:15 inside the evidence, we hear the powerful testimony of Sister Pauline Williamson. Listen, you can't afford to miss this one. Then at 3 p.m., we go behind the pulpit for another life transforming journey. So stick and stay with us. All the summer will come alive 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. June 25 with me, yours truly, Sarah Ann, the chirpy one on the family station, Love 101.
Welcome back to The Rock. Yes, I'm your host, Pastor Steve Blair, and what a wonderful day that the Lord has made. Aren't you just excited to be alive in Jamaica, excited to be alive in this wonderful, beautiful country, and excited to have Love 101? Well, I'm excited to be a part of this whole process. And our topic of discussion today, Jacob, Leah, and Rachel. A lot of excitement, a lot of story, a lot of Post all your comments on the topic, Jacob, Leah, Rachel, on our Facebook Live broadcast of The Rock, or put it also on our YouTube broadcast of The Rock, or send in your WhatsApp messages to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Rock. Yes, send in those messages. Tell us what you think about these three people. What do you think about Jacob? How hard he had to work, all the different stories, put them in your messages and let me hear what you have to say. Voice notes can be sent into 876-997-3125 and keep your voice notes to about 30 seconds and we'll air them for you. Well, on the show today with me are Trinidadians, Reverend Dr. George Mulrain and Raquel Allen. And of course, let me just take the time to once again thank our producer, Kathy Gale, for putting together this show and for Nadine in studio. Reverend Dr. George Mulrain is originally from the Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. He is a graduate of the UTCWI, University Theological College, and also of UWI, following which he served in his first ministerial appointment in the French and Creole-speaking Republic of Haiti. He was tutor and later principal of a British Methodist training institution in Selly Birmingham. He served as lecturer and dean of studies at UTC, and he's an adjunct lecturer there. He's married to Zeta Elaine, and they have 2 daughters and 2 grandchildren. He's a supernumerary minister in the Providence Circuit of the Jamaica Methodist District. Also joining us, Raquel Allen hails from the island of Trinidad. He's a firstborn son among 5 children and also a father of 5 children, a single dad. For almost the last 6 years, he has drawn strength from his early Christian upbringing, as well as his church community, where he has served as a youth minister, lead worshiper, drummer, and teacher for over 20 years. In the kingdom of God, he considers himself a bodybuilder and is passionate about bringing understanding to God's people to equip them to fulfill the Dominion mandate. He hosts or co-hosts the radio program Men Talk on his home Twin Island. Good morning, gentlemen. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Steve.
Nice
Thank
to
you
see
for
you again.
having me. Morning, Ricken.
Blessed morning, gentlemen. Pleasure to be here.
yes. I'm sure my producer, the lovely Catherine Gale, told you the first part of the program looks at whatever mess I have in my mind. And I share that with you and the audience today. I touched on men request. I touched on the state of driving on our roads as always, because that's my pet peeve. And then thirdly, I touched on whether we're ready for where we want to go as a country in Jamaica, with our health sector not being able to take care of our people the way they wanted to. Your thoughts?
Well, I'm at one with you with regard to the very first concern you mentioned pertaining to driving on the roads, because I realize particularly the motorcyclists, they do not realize how dangerous a situation they put not only themselves into, but members of the public, pedestrians and other motorists. They drive as though they are doing some particular show, and they're not serious. And the thing about not wearing helmets and pillion riders, they really do not take much care in driving around. So yes, I agree that we need to be serious about the road situation, the traffic situation, avoid all these road fatalities that we have been experiencing.
Yes. Rukran, your thoughts?
Sure. Well, as it pertains to the driving on the roadways, I think what we see really is the character of people coming out. How we drive is a reflection of our character. And what you would realize is there's a lot of selfishness on the road. So people are not really looking out for the other person. I gotta reach where I gotta reach. I gotta reach quickly. And so pretty much everybody else is like an obstacle. So you need to move out of the way. And more and more, we're seeing instances of road rage and people retaliating on the road and that sort of stuff. And I think it's symptomatic of the times in which we live. And the scripture does say, perilous time shall come in these last days. Men shall be lovers of themselves. That's the very first sign, so, and that really manifests itself in many other aspects of our living, that selfishness and everybody looking out for themselves. So that's what I would say for now as it relates to the driving on the roads and that sort of stuff. In terms of looking ahead to the future as a nation, whether it's Jamaica, whether it's Trinidad and Tobago, whatever the country is, there has to be a shared sense of vision, values, and a buy-in into that. And what hinders that, again, it is that sense of selfishness and insularity, in the sense of, well, I am looking after my interests, and well, everybody else comes second.
Pastor Maureen, the fact is Jamaica has this awesome vision 2030. I would want to almost estimate that as a people, there's no thought on a daily, weekly basis about this vision and how we move forward together.
The importance of it being a place to raise families. This is one of the things that perhaps we need to be reminded of it day by day, because that selfishness that Ricken has mentioned, people are very, very selfish, and there's a need for us to think globally now, think more of the nation. And if indeed we want this dream that has been expressed for this nation to be a place where we can raise families, we can be happy, we can experience peace, love, justice, we've got to think about the other person and not just think about our individual selves.
Certainly. Finally, gentlemen, Requin, you're very involved in men's ministry over there too. We just came through Father's Day, and we look at this struggling view, or that view of fathers around the Caribbean, especially the lack thereof, the absence. Your thoughts and your words to fathers or to young men out there.
Wow. Fathering is a challenge, a major challenge. But we don't just become fathers like that. We have to be groomed. And grooming is a process that takes years. It begins from birth, maybe even before birth. And how we were treated from the womb come forward. You know, how boys are treated versus girls. You know, and from young, boys are taught to suppress their emotions. And so as we come through the years, the expression of emotions is not encouraged. And we end up in a situation where the primary emotions that men tend to express are anger, if they're upset, if they're sad. I mean, it always tends to come out in anger. So you get a girl pregnant, now you are a father. But have you been equipped with the tools? Have you been groomed mentally and emotionally? Have you been mentored to be a father, to give of yourself, to sacrifice, to protect, to raise? And unfortunately, in the Caribbean, there are many who have not had the benefit of that. And so we have a lot of work to do.
Yes. Your thoughts in the last minutes, Reverend Moring?
Yeah, I would agree with what Rick just shared, because there's this idea of suppressing emotions. You are not encouraged as a boy growing up, as a young man, to express tenderness and love. And so that aggressiveness, which seems to be demonstrated more and more, that is what seems popular. I must put out a macho image. I'm a man. And we forget that men are human beings who express emotions like love and tenderness, you know. So if we can just ensure that our young men are introduced from the tender age to the gentle touch. Maybe don't give them too many guns and things like that to play with as toys, because it sort of reinforces the idea that you've got to be tough. You can't be gentle. You can't be like the girls who play with dolls and soft toys. You got to have rough things around you, so that when you become a man, you are that evil monster. So we've got a lot of work to do.
We're going to talk about a young man by the name of Jacob becoming a man right after this break. So stick and stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back here on The Rock. I'm Steve Blair.
Fosrich, for all your electrical, industrial, lighting, and energy needs. Visit us in Kingston, Mandeville, and Montego Bay. Fosrich, making innovation and quality a lifestyle. The time by Fosrich is
10:31.
On your mark, set, get ready to go. It's time for the True Juice 5K, the one-of-a-kind experience taking you through the beautiful True Juice orchards in Bockwalk, Sunday, July 21, 2024. Register now at truejuice.com. Entry fee only $2,500. Come run, walk, and have fun while raising funds for the Lincoln Hospital. Follow at True Juice on Instagram for more details.
Everybody needs a helping hand, somebody to understand. In the end, we're all human. For people living with HIV, no discrimination. Here to support them through. Respect you as usual. Got to protect them too. Whether your friend or your family, somebody in your community, people living with HIV. Protect, accept, and respect people living with HIV. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Every Thursday morning, Love 101 shares with you power-packed messages, words of encouragement, and testimonies of God's miraculous power. You get all of that in the Don't Give Up broadcast, brought to you by Celebration Church at the Portmore Skating Rink in the Portmore Mall with Pastor Prophet Michael Carter. Be sure to stay tuned to Love 101 for the Don't Give Up broadcast. Get the word you need to start your day right. The Don't Give Up broadcast, Thursdays at 5:15 a.m. It's on the family station, Love 101.
Enjoy yummy for the summertime. Win big for the back to school. It's the Yummy Summer Back to School promotion. Purchase one each of these yummy products: yummy cheese bread, cornbread, jamboree, and 5-ounce buns. Write your name, address, and contact number on the back of your receipt and mail with the empty packages. Send in with your Yummy salesman or drop off at your nearest Yummy agency or entry box in participating supermarkets. Enter today and win your share of over 1.4 million in cash and prizes. Win big for the back to school. Follow us at Yummy Bakery JA for more details. Authorized under Section 58 of the Betting, Gaming, and Lotteries Act.
Welcome back to The Rock. I'm your host, Pastor Steve Blair, and just got to say good morning. Got to say good morning to several of you that are taking the time to greet me today and greet us here on The Rock. Of course, my good friend Courtney, Reverend Courtney Morrison's right here, greeting me and sending prayers for me, of course. Thank you, Courtney. I did see a message this morning. Good morning, Pastor Steve and your guest. Missed you on the program. Thank you very much, Miss Iona. But she goes on to say, as I normally hear these last few times I get absent, but the other gentleman did great. No, thank you very much. That must have been Roland. Roland was expected to do great. He's an awesome guy. And when it's not him doing great, it's Courtney. The last time I missed and Courtney replaced me, somebody said, missed you, Pastor Blair, but Courtney did wonderful. I said, Pastor Blair should stay away more often. But I tell you what, it's all about love. It's all about Love 101, and that's why we're here. And whatever way we are, we present to you a program or programs through Love FM that makes your day better, makes your life better. Men's talk or all the different talks, you talk, everything right here, Love 101. Gotta take the time to remind you if there's a topic that you'd like to discuss or you'd like to be on the program as a guest. I want to remind you that you can just send me an email to transformjamaica@hotmail.com, or let me just say it again, transformjamaica@hotmail.com, or you can give me a call at 876-295-9141. That is my cell, and I'll pass it on to my producer. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear the topics that you'd want, or the things that you have on your mind, or the things that you'd like to discuss with our nation. The topic today, very, very powerful one. I read through the Bible, looked at a few of the things that were discussed in Genesis regarding Jacob, Rachel, and Leah. Not to talk about. So who was Jacob? Who was Leah? Who was Rachel? What were their individual stories? How have their coming together in matrimony changed the course of their lives and ours? That's where we go to this morning, and we bring in our very special guest. I see my producer putting up my guests on, and Reverend George, you look like you're ready to start kicking already now. There's a lot to talk about. There's a whole lot to talk about.
Yes.
I'd like to start with one word. One word. I know we're doing Jacob, Rachel, Leah, but let's start with Jacob. And the essence of deception meted out by Jacob is what we see meted out to Jacob. What does that say about us, about life? Some people say, well, I'm a Christian, I don't deserve certain things. But we see Jacob quickly receiving what he was giving. I'll start with you. I want to say Mass George, Reverend Dr. George Mulrain.
Thank you very much. Well, yes, the very interesting tales mentioned in Genesis 29 and 30 in particular. And since we're starting with Jacob, and a while ago we mentioned fathers, I want to mention that Jacob's father, Isaac, he had married when he was 40 years old, but his wife, Rebecca, she did not conceive until about 20 years into their marriage. So she gave birth to twins. Esau was the first to arrive, followed by Jacob. So Esau was historically the first son. Jacob was the second. And you know what I find relevant when we think of Jacob and his marriage later on is the element of deception. Well, the name Jacob means deceiver or supplanter. And so his marriage was itself shrouded with deception. And there's a saying that what goes around must come around. What you sow is what you reap. Well, he sowed a lot, trickery, deception, and it was a feature in his early life. And so it is no wonder that in his married life, it featured. I want to say also that talking about his father, Isaac, a red flag I want to show, namely favoritism. Favoritism, because for Isaac, Jacob was not the favorite. It was Esau. And it was Jacob's mother, Rebecca, who favored Jacob. So right away you're seeing that this could be a bit of a destruction, or destruction could come about in a family context. And so we find because of this deception, initially, a lot is filled into this account. When you read Genesis 29 and 30, very, very interesting, and how for example, Jacob was going to, or rather, Jacob's mother, Rebecca, overheard that Isaac wanted to give his blessing to Esau. But she, as a mother, favoring her son, Jacob, they divide this plot whereby Jacob would be, dressed in Esau's clothes, so you would smell, his clothes would smell to the father. Very hairy man Esau was, but Jacob wasn't hairy, so put on some animal skin on him and went into this father and said, I'm your son, give me your blessing. And of course, the father at that time, he was not seeing too well. Remember, he was way in his 80s and he was failing eyesight. And so he gave the blessing to Jacob, which should have been given to Esau. So I mentioned deception, I mentioned father, as we're talking about Jacob.
Well, we're seeing something here. We tend to throw the word deception and deceiver to Jacob, but it seems almost like a generational curse, a generational situation. And we'll see it further on throughout the scriptures with this family. The mother creating deception with the father, Jacob creating deception onwards down to even his own sons deceiving him.
Yes, that's an ongoing theme, deception. Yes. And it says to you and to me, well, let us come clean, let us be honest. Don't deceive anyone. Just be who you are, your true self.
Yes, yes. Well, Rickman, this is indeed a very big thing. We're not talking much about Isaac today, but we see the work of Jacob going beyond his father and mother, going down to him getting married, going down to his children, all this deception, everything being wrapped up in the story. When we consider our men today, you mentioned that it probably even starts before birth. You mentioned from the time of the womb. We're seeing in this one story just one topic, a very serious one, as I start out the program, the element of deception coming down the line with this family. Your thoughts?
Um, well, it's interesting you mentioned the term generational curse before. There are those who may disagree that that is applicable today. The truth is that there are traits that run in families. And I ask myself the question, what kind of man was Bethuel? Who was Bethuel? Bethuel was the father of Rebekah and Laban. And both Rebekah and Laban were practitioners of deception. They were conniving, they were scheming, they were manipulative, etc., etc. So perhaps we are ascribing too much blame to Jacob. Maybe there was a foundation that was laid generationally in terms of the family of origin, not on Isaac's side or Abraham's side, but on Bethuel's side. So it had me wondering what used to go on in that family. And if we bring that to today, we have to be careful who we marry and how we marry. We have to look at families of origin. We have to study and consider what is going on in that particular family. I see the girl, I like her, but what are some of the traits that that are particular to that family that could impact me down the road? I will stop there.
Boy, I wanted to stop you, because it's time for the break, but I never want to stop you at all. We're going into the break. We're going to come back. I don't know how we're going to touch marriage. We have to go touch marriage today, Pastor George. We're going to touch some things. We'll be right back here on The Rock.
Jamaica, Jamaica, I see what I want at Fosrich Super Sale, June 17 to 28. Call us at 876-937-5099 or visit us in Kingston, Mandeville, Draxall, and Montego Bay. Come get your wires, breakers, chandeliers, flood lamps, LED bulbs, solar panels, and so much more. Come shop, come save at Fosrich Super Sale, June 17 to 28. See you there at Fosrich, open Sundays.
Febreze. Imagine getting home after a long day and it smells so amazing that it makes you smile. Try Febreze Plugs, an air freshener that delivers continuous scent for up to 50 days when you plug it in low mode. Indulge in wonderful scents for weeks with Febreze. La, 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 la.
On the next Campus Connection, it's our academic year in review. As we come to the end of this academic year, we take a moment to reflect on what God has done over the past year and to highlight some of the best moments. It's also a time to turn the page, to look forward to what God might have in store for us in the coming year. Join the conversation with Miss Shania Smith, our campus liaison, and Miss Ruth Lawrence, our campus consultant. You don't want to Miss or Campus Alert feature with Mr. Delano Jarrett, Manager of Client Relations and Marketing, and or creative blog guest, Miss Shamika Williams, a singer, poet, and medical science student. This all happens on Tuesday, June 25 at 5:30 p.m. on the family station, Love 101.
Building your house and looking for everything in hardware from ground to roof? Save the hassle. It's Robinson and Sons Hardware, dedicated to giving you the best. Call Robinson and Sons Hardware 876-715-1724 or visit 18 West Palm Avenue, Port Antonio, Portland. If we don't have it, we'll get it for you. Robinson and Sons Hardware, Port Antonio, Portland, dedicated to giving you the best. 876-715-1724.
It's time for the True Juice 5K, Sunday, July 21, 2024. Register now at truejuice.com. Entry fee only $2,500. Sponsored by Supreme Ventures Limited, Wasico Group Limited, National Bakery, Caledonia Outdoor, Visual Vibe, Rainforest, Jamaica Dairy Board, Select Brands, Jamaica Observer, Guardian Group, Honey Bun, Real Power Diesel, Advantage Communications, iPrint Group, New Impact Media Solutions, and Love FM. Follow at True Juice on Instagram for more details.
Have to be a man, got to be a man. I am a man, I am a man.
On the next episode of The Mailbox, we will focus on a better tomorrow. Music has been explored as a potential tool to reduce crime and violence in various contexts. Truth is that music is a powerful tool that can influence social change both negatively and positively. A major determining factor which defines whether society is plunged into an abyss of negativity manifested by crime and violence or become one of peace and tranquility is leadership. Can the use of gospel music help to create a better tomorrow? You are invited to join us as we speak with gospel artists Kevin Smith and Ryan Testify Davis on Wednesday, June 26th at 5:30 p.m. on the family station. Love 101, The Mailbox, Monday.
The mathematics don't can it on them there. So not because when the am them there.
Welcome back to The Rock. Welcome back. I can only say to you that as I take the time to read the scriptures before me, that boy, the deception continues. And I hope that the lessons learned from today's program will touch lives and transform your existence, make your families better, make everything in your way forward the way it needs to be, starting with our own thought process and our own behavior and character. I pray today's program will touch us, you, me, each of us, regarding character. Let's bring back in our very special guest, because we've gotten to a place where we touched on the word marriage, and many people get married today, and I know I'm going to jump the gun just a little bit today, but many people get married today not looking at some of these things that we've already touched on in this program. And by the time a month rolls around, in fact, I did a wedding several years ago, and after the first week, I got a call saying, no, too much, done, ready to go. And that's because we've not done our homework. So, gentlemen, welcome back, Requien Allen and Reverend Dr. George Mulrain. Gentlemen, we are delving deeper. Requien, I'm not letting you go, you know. I'm not letting you go. I'm not letting you come off the hook, but that's all you have to say. No, the father and the mother was bad. The son was bad. I just sat down reading. I saw all the way through chapter 30 and 29, and everything is just even Laban being told, give me my sheep. Everything's just deception. How can we speak to men as we and people today as we go forward about the essence of looking at ourselves and our family history? I'm not even talking about looking at the woman before you marry her. Look at yourself. And because there are Christians listening to us today, that when they look at themselves, they see the mess. Frequent?
Sure. Look at yourself. The man in the mirror, according to MJ.
Yes.
You know, there's a saying that we have when it comes to marriage, or a question that we ask. What are you bringing to the table? And normally when that question is asked, it is in the context of what do you have? What do you have to bring to the table? Right? What skills do you have? What resources do you have to bring to the table? But how many of us really think of character when it comes to the table? And really and truly, many of us spend a whole heap of time working on our careers, but not on our character. And character is the thing that is really needed to sustain a marriage and to sustain in marriage and life on the whole. Character. And this character, it is a lifelong process. It is forged. Character is forged. And when we think of forging, we're talking about heat, we're talking about pressure, we're talking about problems, we're talking about trouble. In the heat of life, character is forged. But we have choices to make. And when it comes to deception, I think underpinning deception, there's a fear, I believe, that people have that if they don't go the route of deception, it will not work out favorably for them. They believe that given the hand that they've been dealt with or the resources that they have, it is not sufficient. They need to tap into other means in order to ensure that they get what they want. And that's just my take, my position. And so we have to be able to identify and address what are these deep-seated fears that we have that kind of push us to resort to tactics and strategies that are not right, that are not, virtuous and godly and that sort of stuff. So I think as men in particular, we have to do some introspection, and probably bounce some stuff off of others that we trust. Ask them about yourself. What kind of man you think I am, and be willing to hear the feedback. Yeah.
Yeah. Reverend Dr. Mulrain, as we look at this story here in Genesis, Jacob leaves home, goes out, and immediately sees the crowd of shepherds and people watering, and immediately falls for Rachel. Giving you the chance to build on the story from there and the lessons that we can. We have 5 minutes here just to build on that story from there.
Right.
His impending immediate love for Rachel and what happens thereafter.
Yeah. I want to go back to that question that Rickon raised about the Bethuel household, because I want to believe that there is something there that Jacob's mother must have inculcated in her, because when I was looking again at the Genesis, I was looking at Genesis 27:46. Rebekah said to Isaac, I am weary of my life because of the Hittite women. If Jacob marries one of the Hittite women, such as these, one of the women of the land, what good will my life be to me? And then in Genesis 28, Isaac called Jacob, blessed him, and said to him, you shall not marry one of the Canaanite women, Go at once to Padam Aram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and take as wife from there one of the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. So somehow Rebecca was instilling into Jacob the idea that the only way you can, the only marriage you should contract should be a marriage with the people where I was born, in my area. So when he goes and he sees Rachel, yes, he right away he falls for her. He falls in love with Rachel. And he is maybe thinking what mother is saying has to come to pass. This is the woman I want to marry, Rachel. And so they developed this idea that whatever happens, whether I see any other woman from any other tribe, no, according to my mother, this is where my family this is where I build up my family, with a woman of my mother's clan. So I find it very interesting when we could ask that question. We can ask that question about the Bethuel household. I wonder what sort of advice or words of wisdom were being imparted, that when she comes now as a mother and she says to her son Jacob, don't marry one of these Canaanite women. No, go where I come from, and it will be well with you.
But she was more than likely confident in her own clan, whether they were deceivers or not. But once again, she was very influential in leading Isaac to go in that direction and to say what he had to say to his son, and therefore Jacob goes in that direction. Once he gets there, though, he finds a Rachel. He finds someone he loves. He doesn't have to take time to look into her family. The family is his family. It's his uncle.
Yes, no problem.
but he never had introspection to see the deception in his family, and he gladly goes forward. But there's so much that takes place, even between Rachel and Leah, between Jacob and Laban during the next 14 plus years after that moment. And it continues, ladies and gentlemen that are listening today, to be more and more a lesson in character, deception, and maybe even the need for true prayer and guidance by the Holy Spirit. We have to go to another break. But gentlemen, we have to delve directly into these two ladies because as we come from the break, I want to go into the fact that not only do we see Jacob and Laban with their deception, but the sisters as they look towards their own children. We're coming right back. It's The Rock. It's so much to talk about. And I hope you're learning. I hope you're listening. I hope you're thinking. And I hope there's introspection. It's The Rock.
Get ready for another inspiring show this Testimony Tuesday inside Alive, 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. June 25. Packed with inspirational stories and island-flavored music. 1:45, we bring you the brain testing Menticize Listener Speak Edition. Stick around for prayer blast at 2 o'clock as we bring in the prayer bells of heaven. 2:15 inside the evidence, we hear the powerful testimony of Sister Pauline Williamson. Listen, you can't afford to miss this one. Then at 3 p.m., we go behind the pulpit for another life transforming journey. So stick and stay with us. All the summer will come alive, 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. June 25 with me, yours truly, Sarah Ann, the chirpy one on the family station, Love 101.
And he knows my name.
Here is your opportunity to connect with someone who will listen, pray, and give guidance. It's the Ministry of Counseling and Prayer of the Edgewater Baptist Church. Please call 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. Weekdays between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Please talk to someone if you're finding it particularly challenging to cope during this period of crisis. Someone is waiting for your call. Please reach out today, 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. It's the telephone counseling and prayer ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church. A reminder that somebody cares. Endorsed by Love 101.
When I come to the end of myself, Father, carry me.
As a man living with HIV, a regular day for me, not much different from yours. I have to wake up and go to people and work in the traffic, but then when we reach, we can run some joke with my co-worker them. Sometimes we link up after work, or play ball, or just dip on my ends and kick back before we go home. You see how much we have in common? People living with HIV are a part of our community. Make a par, protect, accept, and respect. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
PK Global Ministries presents their Prayer Storm Revival Service at Windscar Park, Christiana, Manchester, Friday, June the 28th and Saturday, June the 29th, 2024. Starting time, 7 p.m. Featuring Prophet Kenneth Okoji from Houston, Texas, and Evangelist Ian Levy from Christiana, Manchester. Sponsored by Bread of Life Entertainment, Forever Young Hairdressing and Beauty Supplies, and Sugar Notch Recording Studio. It's PK Global Ministries Prayer Storm Revival Service. Be there.
It's time for the True Juice 5K, Sunday, July 21, 2024. Register now at truejuice.com. Entry fee only $2,500. Sponsored by Supreme Ventures Limited, Wasico Group Limited, National Bakery, Caledonia Outdoor, Visual Vibe, Rainforest, Jamaica Dairy Board, Select Brands, Jamaica Observer, Guardian Group, Honey Bun, Real Power Diesel, Advantage Communications, iPrint Group, New Impact Media Solutions, and Love FM. Follow at True Juice on Instagram for more details.
I just prayed for you. I just prayed because I see that this program is going to be really deep. And through this program, there'll be some life-changing words coming to many people because we live in a country where so much deception takes place. So many people say they love but don't, and so many people say they care but don't. In fact, we do live in a country where people are told you are the father when they're not. Please bring back in the guests because we don't have that problem in this story, I don't believe, but we do have some problems to look at and some lives to touch. Gentlemen, we go straight into these two sisters and the man who won them. Worked hard for them. Jacob, I want to say contractually agreeing with the father, Laban, for Rachel. It was Jacob's offer, I believe, that he would work 7 years and get the daughter. And he put it in. What we see from Jacob in the story is a man who worked hard, a man who was blessed, a man who, through him, others became blessed. But the story is much bigger than a blessing. And another lesson for Jamaicans, because everything is a blessing. Everybody wants a blessing. Here is a blessing for us today. Gentlemen, help us heal a nation. Help us remove deception from people's lives. So I'll start with you, Senior, Reverend Dr. George Mulray.
Yes.
Leah, Rachel, the two daughters presented by Laban. Jacob goes, he wants to work for Rachel. You can take it from there. You be the storyteller.
Yes.
You inspire us.
Yes, he wants to have Rachel because that's the one he was attracted to as soon as he landed in Padanaram. And so he does what is necessary, works, and that is the remuneration he's going to get. There's another interesting thing about remuneration, which is people, but that's another story. You know, one of the concerns I have about the deception in with the two girls or the two young women. How is it that on the night that Laban presented Leah, Jacob didn't realize that it was not Rachel? You wonder, did he when he first met her, did they not speak? Did they have no conversation at all? Had he been admiring her from a distance? And so when making love to her or making love to the woman that night, he didn't know it wasn't really Rachel. He couldn't see her. It was in the dark, we are told. And
yes, the father waited until night, the
yes,
Bible said.
He waited in the night so that he could be really deceived. And again, you know, in the night, I'm just thinking about in the night not being able to see properly. His father, Jacob's father, Isaac, had been deceived because of failing eyesight. So it was, you know, parallel failing eyesight in the night. You don't know what you're getting into. So his father thought he was really Esau when indeed he was Rachel. So he was deceived. And here we have Jacob now making love to this woman in the night and thinking that, well, probably thinking that it is Rachel, but it is not Leah. And I've been reflecting on this, and I read a comment that the Jewish historian Josephus made. He said that it was really that Jacob was drunk. He had had too much to drink.
Too much fun, too much celebration.
Yeah, because, and you know, he's making the point that what Laban had organized wasn't necessarily a wedding party, a wedding feast, but it was what they called a mishteh, which was a drinking party. The men came, and all the men of the area came, and so they were able to drink and so on. So that it might have been under the influence of alcohol that he didn't recognize in the night, but in the day he recognized her. But of course,
when he awoke, yes.
When he woke, he realized he had been deceived. But then, you know, the other thing I find interesting is that when he confronts Laban, say, what sort of thing you do, man? How you treat me like that, man? I was expecting Rachel and you give me Leah. And the father said, well, no, according to our custom, the elder must be married before the younger. So, all right, let's, at the end of this week, you will have Rachel at the end of this week. But there's a condition. You can have her, but you still got to work 7 more years to pay back. So here is the situation. Deception. That Laban takes advantage of the darkness and presented his younger daughter, presented the elder daughter, Leah, instead of Rachel. And of course, well, you know, the other thing I often wonder whether Leah and Rachel were in league with their father, whether they knew what was taking place, they agreed. Whether, for example, Rachel accepted the fact, maybe under the father's influence, that you are younger, so
yes,
you know, Jacob has got to marry your sister first. So I don't know. It's very interesting.
But I wondered if I've lived in a community for 7 years, would I not have learned the custom of the community? especially a community of my family, that they expect the first to be given away first, and um, but if he didn't learn that, shouldn't that have been expressed also by Laban? The it is heart wrenching to work for 7 years for one woman and get somebody else,
Yeah.
somebody you don't love.
Right.
And no doubt what we're seeing here, Riquen, is we're seeing the building of a family, with Leah that doesn't have love, and the building of a family through deception, and the yearning for a family that almost became non-existent because of the fact that Rachel could not have children. But more than anything, Riquen, we're seeing one man go through exactly in so many ways what he has done to others.
Yes, that is correct, and it is a truism. You reap what you sow, but you also reap how you sow. So if you sow bountifully, you reap bountifully, and that doesn't just go for money and finances, right? It's a principle. It's a life principle. So if you dish out in abundance, it will be dished back to you in abundance. Jesus said, "The same measure you meet, it shall be meted back." But I want to go back a little bit, because there's an interesting verse in Genesis chapter 26. Genesis chapter 26. That gives us a little insight into Esau. It says when Esau was 40 years old, he married Judith, daughter of Beri the Hittite, and also Basma, daughter of Elon the Hittite. And then verse 35 says, they were a source of grief to Isaac and Rebekah. Now that provides us with some important background information. Because here's the firstborn son, he's 40 years old, and he goes out and gets wives of his own choosing. He does not consult his parents, he does not consult father or mother, as would have been the case with Abraham slash the
Isaac.
servant.
Yeah.
Yeah, the servant that he would have sent out, on Isaac's behalf, right? So that was broken, that was violated, and Pastor Hero, I want to challenge you probably to do a program with the lives of firstborns versus the rest, because when you look at firstborns in the scripture and you observe their lives and choices that they made and that sort of stuff, it's really, really interesting, So in this particular case, Esau goes out, he picks his own wives, but the women that he selects are a source of grief to both Isaac and Rebekah. How many times do we see that in our societies, where our children, they reach a stage where, okay, I see, I like, and I mean, we saw the example even with Samson in scripture. He was a Jew, he was raised in a godly household, yet he went out and he made his choices based on whatever his preference was. He did not give his parents the honor of consulting with them. And so, having gone through that experience, both Isaac and Rebekah are like, you see this wrong? That's not going to happen with Jacob. We're not going to allow that with Jacob. But even though this process is followed, it does not exempt Jacob from experiencing grief of his own. And it just goes to show that life really brings with it a mixed bag. And we don't have control over so many of the things that happen, but it's about how we respond. So I just wanted to go back to that a little bit, to show that the choices that we make now are always impacted by stuff that happened before.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. Well, we do see two other major events taking place with this family as we go along that we must discuss. Major in the sense that uh, Jacob does work the additional 7 years. It's not our culture where families get paid for a daughter, but it's still a part of African culture. I've been very aware of some and involved with families there that do that. So Jacob basically works to pay, uh, not work to earn, work to pay for his wife. And even though he went through and did all of that, um, Laban still maintained his character. And so the essence of our program today sticks with that one thing all through character and deception, because what we find is that Laban, in giving his two daughters to his nephew and saying goodbye, still would not let them go in peace. He still presented deception, Requien, still would not give his nephew what he deserved.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you want me to comment on that, or?
Yes. I mean, because when it came to giving Jacob his due so he could leave, he still deceived him.
Yes. Can a leopard change his spots? Listen, this characteristic seem really to be endemic in this family, and I think it goes back to the point I was making earlier about selfishness. There are people who are bent on and intent on succeeding at your expense. And Laban comes across to me as one who is very selfish, because there is a point in the narrative where when Jacob is ready to leave, he has a conversation with his wives, which are Laban's daughters, and they are like, our father didn't leave anything for us, you know. The money that they were entitled to an inheritance, and the money that Jacob would have earned over the years. Remember, when he reached there, he had nothing, so he couldn't pay any dowry. Isaac didn't give him any money to pay the bride father, so he had to work. But the earnings that Jacob would have gotten, or the benefits that Laban would have gotten as a result of Jacob working, would have accumulated some savings, quote unquote, for his daughters. So he was supposed to be building this fund. Is like insurance, right? He was supposed to be working on building this fund for his daughters when they were ready to leave. But the passage suggests clearly that he had used out that money. He had interfered with that money. So Laban had nothing for the daughters. And that is instructive for us who are fathers. Even though our daughters may go and leave us, they are married, we still have a responsibility towards them to provide, not as the husband would provide, but to provide some sort of inheritance. And Laban quite clearly seems to be all about himself. He's a user, he's a deceiver, and his character really doesn't change at all.
Okay, I want to look at something. This is when I come to Pastor Mulray now, Reverend Mulray. The sisters, Rachel couldn't have children, so we're going to talk about them having their children now. Back to I think chapter 29. So Leah has her children. Rachel can't. We find an interaction between the sisters. They start pulling on their maidens. They start competing to show it wasn't about love. They start competing to present children to Jacob. This element of the story, is there something cultural here that we're not attuned to? Is there something happening here that helps us to understand them more?
What we are looking at, yes, is the key relationship is childbearing. That's a key relationship insofar as marriage is concerned. So Rachel, who was the initially desired wife, according to Jacob, she was not blessing him as her sister was doing. And so this threw the relationship into severe jealousy. And so we had Leah, because she was not loved. I like how the scripture put it. Genesis 29, verse 31. When the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. And Leah conceived and bore a son. So we see now an understanding here that there is sympathy, maybe divine sympathy for, according to the narrative, divine sympathy for Rachel, who was barren. And then, but when we look in Genesis 30 now, when Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, she envied her sister and said to Jacob, "Give me children, or I shall die." And then, of course, this made Jacob very angry. It put a lot of strain on the relationship, not having children. And Jacob says, "Well, am I in the place of God, who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb?" So you see how serious it is. And then, as you mentioned, the matter of the maid, she said, "Okay, here's Bilhah, my maid, go in and have sex with her," and so on. And we find out later on that Leah, when Leah stopped bearing children, she gave her maid Zilpah to Jacob as a wife. And then Zilpah bore Jacob a son. And Leah then said, "That's good." And her maid Zilpah bore another child. And so what we're seeing here, childbearing is so crucial, so important in the relationship, that as we see, if my wife cannot have a child, give me your maid, give me the maid, and I will go into the maid and have a child of my own through the maid. So it's something that today, I suppose, persons realize, well, look, we can't have children, but we can adopt children. That sort of thing apparently didn't feature in the time of Leah and Rachel and Jacob. But they saw another way.
But as you listen to Leah, as she, back in chapter 29, when she gets these first four sons, when she had each child, she made statements. And she conceived, gave birth to Reuben, because the Lord has seen my humiliation and my suffering. Now my husband will love me. She conceived and gave birth to us another son, because the Lord heard that I am unloved. So you can feel as she expresses herself, Ruquen, her absence of love, because she knows that she did not belong. She conceived in verse 34 and gave birth to a son. Now this time my husband will become attached. Almost sounds like a modern day woman when she goes and have children for a man to try and hold him. But more than just trying to get his attention, you can see her absence of love.
Yeah.
In the story.
Yes, that comes out so very clearly in the reading. I suppose women today, although there is still the feeling that women must bear children in order for them to be valuable. I mean, this is how some persons see it. But we realize today that there are many women who can bear children but opt for focusing on a career orientation. And so the matter of childbearing is not as crucial in some marriage relationships today than it was of yesteryear. But it has... go ahead.
No, I was saying that the aspect of childbearing in this situation, as even in the Jamaican context, where we see that people have a child to hold a man, holding the man does not present love.
Right.
Holding the man, getting that child does not present love, and then we end up with children then who get caught up in the matrix of the mess.
Yeah.
And the children behave likewise. We have a voice note. Let's hear what the person on WhatsApp, Nadine, what that person has to say, or the voice note.
Pastor Steve there and your noble guest. I see this story as a big deception. Why Laban know that the first should go before? So why he didn't tell Jacob that from the beginning? Why didn't tell him that he could not have the younger sister? You have to have the eldest sister. He should have told him that before. This is a big deception on his part, and I guess he wanted to use it at his advantage.
I wish I had some more of you sending in those voice notes, because I want to hear what you are hearing, what you are feeling. We're going to go into our break. It's 11:29, going into our 11:30 break here in Love. Want to look further at these sisters, their inability to wait on God, and just look at this situation further as we try to bring some change to people's lives today on The Rock. We'll be right back.
Come to Ridge for your ceiling fans at prices as low as $15,000. Their sleek and stylish 52-inch fan blades are designed to fit and complement your interior decor. Call them now at 876-937-5099 or visit any of their locations in Kingston, Mandeville, Montego Bay, and their newest location, Draxall. Beat the heat this summer at Ridge with their Madison ceiling fans. Prices as low as $15,000. Open Sundays.
Joseph Patty with the next coca bread. Patty can't without coca bread. Lay the patty eat flat in the bread. Bread soft with coca bread. Patty hot gas can't eat the bread. Joseph Patty with coca bread nice. With them coca bread are my choice. When soft you know it tastes nice. Coca bread with the chicken no rice. Get the best patty and coca bread at Juicy today.
When tape diapers are difficult to change, it's time for Pampers Easy Ups with 360 stretchy waistband. They're easy to put on and take off. keeping their skin dry and protected.
Changes are easy with Easy Ups.
Introducing Bethel Bible College of the Caribbean, Jamaica. Choose from our range of options: a 4-year Bachelor of Theology degree with a minor in guidance and counseling, or a 3-year diploma in theology. A 4-year Bachelor of Theology degree, a 1-year certificate in Christian ministry, levels 1 and 2. Plus, we have 6-week courses which provide you with flexible options to enhance your knowledge and skills. All our programs are fully accredited by the University Council of Jamaica. Bethel Bible College Caribbean.edu.jm.
The report is out.
What report?
The Constitutional Reform Committee's report of recommendations.
Recommendations on what?
On how we move from a monarchy to a republic, of course.
So what's in it?
The creation of the office of president and changes to our parliament. Yes, man. It also includes a new qualification for membership in parliament. I know you want to see that one.
Read the full report at roadtorepublic.mlca.gov.jm.
We are on the road to republic.
When tape diapers are difficult to change, it's time for Pampers Easy Ups with 360 stretchy waistband. They're easy to put on and take off, keeping their skin dry and protected.
Changes are easy with Easy Ups.
Ready up, Jamaica! Get excited for a one-of-a-kind experience on Sunday, June 4. The Orchards of True Juice Bog Walk. Come alive with another staging of the True Juice 5K. Come run, walk, and have some fun as we raise funds for the Linstead Hospital. Enjoy the natural beauty of our island while enjoying a truly Jamaican vibe. Entry fee $2,000. Register now at TrueJuice.com. There's no other 5K like it. Follow at True Juice on Instagram for more details.
Welcome back to The Rock. I'm your host, Bishop Harold Steve Blair, and this is a very, very deep topic because we're looking at Jacob, Rachel, Leah, but the expanded versions of Laban, Rebecca, and their families. Joining us today are two guests looking at this topic, which has become a topic on deception, a topic on the realities of life. Obviously, the deception continues. And I go to Rickman because, Rickman, as I look at this, and we're at the point now where children are coming into the fore, where Jacob is now having children. He's there, he's still at Laban's house, he's not left yet. But in the middle of all of this, Leah has kids. She has 4, and Rachel can't have any at this time. Rachel then presents her maids. Your thoughts on this process? Is there a feel for competition between the little sister and the big sister? Is there a feel for womanhood? And what are the results coming forth with these children that are not from the wives, but from the maidens?
Well, the culture and the custom back in those days, and I think we see another account in the book of Genesis with Judah and his sons. It was a big deal, childbearing, and it's been mentioned before, a big deal to bring forth children. Why? Because the original mandate is be fruitful and multiply, right? So childbearing is part and parcel of the dominion mandate that was given to man. And this was before the law, right? Before the law was given, before Moses, it was considered a blessing to be able to produce children and a curse to be barren. A curse is like something wrong with you if you cannot produce children. So we have these two ladies. We have one who is loved but barren, and one who is unloved but fruitful. It is an interesting kind of scenario. And I think God set it that way. God set it that way because we have a tendency to capitalize and take advantage. And we could make reference to the story of Elkanah and Peninnah and Hannah, because Hannah was loved, but she was barren. And in that situation, in that scenario, it means more. Well, let me see how I could put this. To Rachel, it meant more to be fertile than to be loved. And to Leah, it meant more to be loved than to be fertile. It's quite interesting. They did not have the benefit of both at the same time. And I believe, again, that is how God set it. That's how God established it. And one of the lessons I get from this is that, listen, God is concerned about the little things that concern us, you know. God was concerned about the fact that Leah felt unloved. And she prayed and God answered. And when Leah started to get children, she was like, the Lord has seen my misery. The Lord has heard. All right. But again, as you said, Pastor Hero, that did not translate to love. It did not change Jacob's heart towards her. And that's a tough place to be in. And humanity, whether it's 2,000, 3,000 years ago or now, we have the same challenges, but we have the same emotions. And there are many in our societies who may be good looking, who may be gifted in different ways, but there are parts of them where they have voids. And they end up doing different things to try to fill the void. And if we resort to our own means and methods, that is where things start to go awry. That is where the deception comes in and the manipulation and that sort of stuff. So we have a tale of two women, and in the midst of it, I just want to make this point quickly. Ladies, don't, or be careful not to put not to put undue pressure on the man because things are going how you want it to. Because in this particular case, Jacob had no control. The Bible says one plant, another water, but who give the increase? It's God who give the increase. So God is the one who causes us to be fruitful. God was the one who caused Leah to be fruitful and Rachel to be unfruitful for a time. And just last but not least, surrogacy. Surrogacy was practiced. So in this particular case, and it happened with Sarah and Hagar. You remember. Sarah couldn't produce children. So she got this bright idea. Well, you know what? Let me give my husband my maid, Hagar, so that she could bear a child for me. So the child is not seen as the maid's own. The child is seen as the wife's child. The maid is just the vehicle through which the child comes. So those children are never mentioned as being the children of Zilpah or the children of Bilhah. They are mentioned as being, well, Jacob's children, of course, but through
He says, I have
maids.
struggled with my sister and I prevailed. And that is through the child of Bilhah. Yes.
Correct.
Wow.
Surrogates.
Yep.
Was that right?
Surrogates.
Yes.
Yeah. But could I say something?
Go ahead.
Very interesting. The matter of jealousy, which was a feature of this marriage. You know, a while ago, Pastor Steve, you touched on you made a mention of African marriage, and I'm thinking of we often talk about a polygamous relationship or polygamous relationships in Africa. And one of the things I have learned about polygamous relationships in Africa is that there is every attempt made to avoid jealousy. Difficult situation. I remember when I first went to Ghana, and I was walking with somebody, and I saw a group of women with a man. The man was, yes, they're dressed in typical Ghanaian clothes, and all the women, the four women who were with him, had identical dress. And my host said to me, that man has 4 wives, and he makes sure that if he buys a dress for one, he has to buy the same dress for the other in order to avoid any form of jealousy. And I think this matter of jealousy then features heavily in any relationship, whether it's polygamous or relationship between man and woman. And the matter of jealousy is something we always have to guard against. We have to treat each person as a person of due respect, and not to down cry or to belittle the other, but all have to be given equal treatment.
Yeah, I did meet a lady when I was in South Africa who, at the mall, I saw her crying. And when I walked up to her to ask her what was happening, she said to me that she was wife of a man whose father died. The father was the chief. The man became the chief. And when he became chief, he now was capable of marrying other women. She had put him through school, but now as chief, she was wife number 15 and not wife number 1. And she could not handle the difference, even though it is a part of their supposed culture. So, it is easy for us to say, well, it is their culture, they will accept it. But people are still individuals, and each individual has their own desires. It goes back to that word used by Requen very early in the program. Self. I don't want to say selfish. I'll start with self. Well, I tell you what, we got some voice notes. We got some not voice notes, but some messages coming in on WhatsApp. Good morning, gentlemen. I'd like to suggest that God has a plan, even in this seemingly messy situation. Leah was the unloved wife, but she gave birth to Judah, from whose tribe Jesus, our Savior, came. Wow, 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 wow. So all of those things, and I want to hit out on them going. I also want to touch on something else when we come back from the break. But also, Iona Christian, at 11:33, she wrote, and she's been writing here now. She says, this story is riddled with deception and manipulation. Even the sisters' relationship was deceptive, and they seem to be puppets under the thumb of a manipulative father. She continues and says, sometimes people marry into some untangible webs that they have no control over. And she wraps it up by saying, to the natural eye, this would seem so unfair to Leah, in that she didn't even want marriage, but was manipulated by her father and had to endure the disdain and later jealousy. Wow. We're going to take the break. We're going to come back and wrap it up, because when we come back, we're going to talk about all of these maidens and their children and what happened when Rachel had her own. After this break.
Get ready for another inspiring show this Testimony Tuesday inside Alive, 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. June 25. Packed with inspirational stories and island-flavored music. 1:45, we bring you the brain testing Mentasize Listener Speak Edition. Stick around for prayer blast at 2 o'clock as we bring in the prayer bells of heaven. 2:15 inside the evidence, we hear the powerful testimony of Sister Pauline Williamson. Listen, you can't afford to miss this one. Then at 3 p.m., we go behind the pulpit for another life transforming journey. So stick and stay with us. All the summer will come alive, 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. June 25 with me, yours truly, Sarah Ann, the chirpy one on the family station, Love 101.
You're now invited to listen to our hurricane tip brought to you by Grace Sardines. Follow the better flavor.
Happy follow Grace Sardine. Follow the better flavor. Grace Sardine with the chef and the beginner. Follow the one with pepper. That are the winner. Shop on supermarkets. Everybody sell it. You all of them nice. Pass the park, make push it.
Grace Sardines, follow the better flavor.
This is Hurricane Alert, a bulletin of hurricane preparedness tips presented by Love 101 FM. If you live near a seacoast, you can be affected by storm surges. Therefore, if a hurricane threatens your area, plan to evacuate to the nearest public shelter or to the home of a friend or relative who lives inland. If you live in a flood-prone area, you should also plan to leave during a hurricane. Many people lose their lives during a hurricane because of drowning. You've just heard Hurricane Alert, a bulletin of hurricane preparedness tips. Keep listening to Love 101 FM for more helpful tips when next we present Hurricane Alert.
Happy follow Grace Sardine. Follow the better flavor. Grace Sardine with the chef and the beginner. Follow the one with pepper. That are the winner. Shop on supermarkets. Everybody sell it. You all of them nice. Pass the park, make push it.
Grace Sardines, follow the better flavor.
Welcome back to the last few minutes here on The Rock. I want to go straight to our guests because I want to just take these last few minutes to look at these final issues. Gentlemen, I know we accept as culture the involvement of these maids. I look at these, but then I go to Rachel, having seen the maids and everybody else having children, and I see her at a position where indeed the Bible says, Rachel said to Leah, please give me some of your sons. Well, she does all of that, but in the end, Rachel has a son. In the end, Rachel has a son. That son is Joseph. I know we mentioned earlier the topic of surrogates and that it was an accepted norm as we see in stories in the Old Testament. But as a modern day pastor, should I still throw out the scripture, wait, I say on the Lord, be of good courage? Because the best son shows up out of the impossibility of her situation. Your thoughts.
Wicked, you wanted to go?
All right, I'll take a I'll take a stab at it. Yes, what I've come to realize. The best outcome is when we do the right thing in God's timing. That's the best outcome, right? And so, yes, there's tremendous value in waiting on God's timing. All right, and we just have to go back a couple of generations again to Isaac and Ishmael. and the repercussions of that even to today. All right. So God's timing is critical. And that issue of timing is is very important even when it comes to marriage. You know, you may marry the right person, but in the wrong time. And that could be problematic for you and for others. Right? Timing is everything, as they say. That being said, the greatness of God is such that He makes provision for our mess. And at the end of the day, there were supposed to be 12 tribes. And those 12 tribes came via 4 different women. So Leah had six sons, Zilpah and Bilhah had 2 sons, and Rachel had 2 sons. And so even though we had all sorts of human shenanigans and the jealousy and the competition and all that sort of stuff, in the midst of that, I believe God's will prevailed. And so we have the 12 tribes of Israel. Of course, there was Melee and what we call Bacchanal in Trinidad.
Bacchanal, yeah.
Yeah, Bacchanal in among the tribes. But hey, listen, wherever humans are, you will find Bacchanal. Right? So yes, I would reiterate, it is very important to wait on God's timing. But God is so powerful that even when we do things out of timing, He works things according to His plan and purpose.
So I would agree with you that waiting upon God is equivalent to us trusting in God. Trust God. We made reference a while ago to Joseph, and Joseph was one who trusted God. I mean, he was a victim of deception. They sold him into slavery. He reached into Egypt, and one of the things when eventually he came into a position of power, they tried to trick him. I mean, Potiphar's wife tried to trick him, and he was again punished. But he waited upon God and still prevailed. And it was a situation where he was able now to help his family out of a famine, helping them, even though the brothers had deceived him. But deception may last for a time, but we got to trust God. You know, I like the psalm which says, "Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning." And it is something that, as a believer, as a person of faith, I realize that there will be times, there will be the difficult areas of life, but in the final analysis, the faith in God is what will see us through.
Yeah. We do see, however, gentlemen, that even Joseph, the man of God, played the role of deceiver, with his brothers. So the family trait, listeners, became even evident in the heart and life of the man of God. But the important thing that we gather from our 2 guests today is God is. God is bigger than everything and all the mess in our life. Right, Raquel?
True. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yes, and He does have plans that must come to pass. Sadly, as we close, and we only have 2 minutes, we see Laban still, even while they're there getting ready to go, trying to deceive Jacob, trying to rob him, trying to do whatever he can. And it just says so to all of us today that character trait is not a good one. It will hamper us. It will hamper our lives. It will create problems. And I encourage all of our listeners and viewers today to take the time to look within yourself. Gentlemen, from all that we've said today regarding the life, I don't want to say of these three because we've fully included Laban, Rebecca, Isaac, and what was the name of Rebecca's father again?
Bethuel.
Bethuel.
Yes, Bethuel. So, gentlemen, give me a minute each. Your wrap on our talk today and give a word to our listeners. I'll start with you, Reverend Dr. Mulray.
Well, I would say one of the things that you and I ought to avoid is deception. And early on, we were talking about whether this was a situation, or it came from Kathy's note, whether this was one of the love triangles. And I'm inclined to say, look, avoid love triangles. But we have to know that Jacob was, in spite of who he was, in spite of his faults, he was used by God, because we talk about the foundation of the 12 tribes. And Jacob is influential in that. So that I, as an individual, even though I am a sinner, yet God can still make use of me in order to bring about his will. So that's what I would say in summary.
Okay, I would say this. Satan himself is called the father of lies. And the means by which he got the first family to fall was deception. And so whenever we practice deception and lies and manipulation, we are actually demonstrating the character of Satan. And so I would strongly encourage us to be mindful of that and to aspire to not just tell the truth, but as the scripture says, thou desires truth from the inward part. So to speak truth to ourselves, to be honest with ourselves, to be honest before God, and also as we look at these biblical accounts, either see yourself in the characters or see the characters in yourself. Are there parts of me that are deceptive? Are there parts of me that are conniving? It doesn't matter who the biblical character is, because we have a tendency to read these stories and say that is them. But we have to examine ourselves and ask God to check us and to search us and to deal with us, so that going forward, God could use us to accomplish his will. Last thing I want to say is this. We may receive a prophetic word from the Lord, and we may think we need to help him to fulfill it. That is what Rebecca did that started this whole mess. God said the older shall serve the younger, but she decided to put her hands in the mix and to interfere. Let God work things out his way in his time. God bless you.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. And thank you, listeners and viewers, for joining us here today on The Rock. We've got to go. So we say thank you very much for being with us. All I can say today to everyone who's joined us is look into yourself, look into your family, be honest with yourself, and honesty is the best policy. God bless you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Anything possible with a little savings in your hand.
The time by Jen Bank is 12 o'clock.